Thanks for joining us. You're watching Arirang Newsbreak on this Thursday, July 28th. I'm Han-daeun in Seoul. Samsung Electronics has seen its quarterly operating profit rise to a two-year high. The Korean tech giant said Thursday that its operating profit in the April to June period jumped 18% from the year before to 8.1 trillion won, or $7.17 billion, largely fueled by stronger smartphone sales and cost-cutting efforts. The IT giant's second quarter revenue also rose nearly 5% to $45.2 billion. The company's smartphone division reported operating profit of $3.8 billion in Q2 on the recent popularity of its Galaxy S7 smartphone. That's a stark contrast to its rival Apple, which reported a 15% drop in quarterly sales due to slowing demand for the iPhone. Seoul and Washington have agreed to come up with a much stronger and more efficient tool in the coming months to cut off cash flows into North Korea. That's according to South Korea's Deputy National Security Advisor Cho Tae-yong after talks with U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken in Washington. In an interview with Seoul-based Yonhap News on Wednesday, Cho said South Korea and the U.S. share the assessment that the North is ready to conduct a nuclear test at any time. And when it does, the two allies plan to put together another UN resolution with much more powerful sanctions. Cho said that while the current UN sanctions are the strongest yet, there are ways to strengthen them. Malta has become the first European country to effectively deport North Korean workers amid growing concerns about Pyongyang's use of forced labor in Europe. Citing Maltese government sources, Yonhap News reports that some 20 North Koreans working in local clothing factories and construction sites left the country in May after their immigration visas were refused an extension after expiry. The measure comes amid several reports about the hundreds of North Koreans working as state-sponsored slaves in Europe to earn foreign currency for the communist regime. There have been continual media reports in Malta as well that the North Korean workers were toiling under long hours and abusive treatment while keeping just 1/3 of their wages, with the rest sent back to the regime. A day after the ASEAN Regional Forum wrapped up, the foreign ministers of 27 member nations issued a joint statement. It contained support for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, but deployment of the U.S. missile defense system THAAD to South Korea was excluded. Our foreign ministry correspondent Kwon So-ah was there.
The joint statement, which represents all 27 members' opinion, includes several regional and security matters, of which one issue is of particular interest to South Korea: North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. A whole paragraph under a section titled Highlights of Discussions on Regional and International Issues deals with the current situation on the Korean Peninsula, expressing the representatives' concern over the North's violations against the international community. The North's fourth nuclear test in January, its missile launch a month later, and a recent one conducted earlier this month have been specifically mentioned, which was not the case in last year's statement. The statement also urged countries to comply with UN Security Council sanctions and called on members to create an environment in which the long-stalled six-party denuclearization talks can be resumed. Meanwhile, an official said Seoul's foreign ministry has checked with high-ranking Laotian government officials whether this really is the final statement, as it was not only released faster than expected, but also 3 days earlier than last year. Earlier, officials said that it's not looking to be easy to get every single ARF member's stance on paper. That's especially due to conflicts on issues such as the South China Sea dispute, which was a hot issue at this year's meeting. The statement expressed members' concerns over escalation on the maritime conflict and said that actions which could further complicate the situation should be avoided. What's worth mentioning is that the U.S. deployment of the missile defense system THAAD, which was said to have been on China's early draft, was not included. Evaluating the statement, a South Korean official said Wednesday that most countries have sent a strong message to North Korea during the ARF meeting, and that South Korea, US, Japan, and Australia's firm cooperation have helped reaching a satisfying result. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News, Vientiane.
The U.S. Federal Reserve has again left interest rates unchanged. It was a move that was widely expected, but it did hint at a rate increase later in the year. Park Jong-hong has the details.
The Federal Reserve has decided to stay the course. It has left interest rates unchanged, but also left the door open to a rate hike later in the year, saying near-term risks to the economic outlook have diminished. In a statement Wednesday following its policy-setting meeting overnight, the Federal Open Market Committee kept its benchmark interest rate in the 0.25 to 0.5% range. The U.S. Central Bank indicated that the economy had expanded at a moderate rate and job gains were strong in June. Analysts say the global slowdown, financial market volatility, and uncertainty over the impact of Brexit have repeatedly prompted the Fed to delay a rate hike. There are 3 more Fed policy meetings remaining this year in September, November, and December. However, a rate hike in November is not seen as likely because the meeting takes place just a week before the U.S. presidential election. The Fed has kept interest rates unchanged ever since the last hike in December last year. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
And that's all for now. Keep it tuned to Arirang for more domestic and global news updates throughout the day. Thank you for watching.